Welcome to this week's video, and this week I'm going to install USB-C ports on PlayStation 3 controllers. So you're going to need the USB-C adapters, which I've got here. I've got a big pack which had two different versions. We're going to go with this one here, which is the slightly smaller version. So it's got 4 pads that we're going to solder to. And we're also going to need to attach a 5.1 kiloohm resistor. This will stop any overcurrent going through. Links for all the items will be in the description. So first off, we need to open the controller. So we'll get our iFixit kit out, and then there's 5 Phillips head screws in the back. It gently peels off. The shoulder buttons may come away, but it's nothing too bad. Disconnect the battery, and then there's 1 screw holding the board in, and then the board will pop out. We just need to remove the wires that are connected to the rumble. So there's 2 wires on either side. We just desolder this side and then desolder the other side, and this will make it a lot easier for removing the board. So we'll take the board out. This is the port we're going to be taking off. So when I did take off the wires, one of the rumble wires did actually break. So what I'm going to quickly do is quickly reattach it. Luckily there was a little bit of wire left on, sticking out. So just need to add a little bit of solder to the end of it. Then we'll come in with the old piece of wire that was attached, that came off, pop a bit of solder on, reattach the 2 of them, nice and easy, and then that's the job done. Now this is the resistor I need to attach. Unfortunately I've got slightly too larger ones, so the ones that I need are a little bit smaller, but we can make do with this. We just have to fit it at an angle. So you just want to position it angled to the 2 pads to make sure that one of them is attached and one of them still visible. So I'm applying a little bit of flux first, then a little bit of solder. Then we'll come in and we will position the chip into place. So we'll hold our tweezers and then we'll solder one end to make sure that's in position. So just make sure it's at an angle, which it is. And then we'll spin it around to get a better angle, and I'm going to apply a little bit of wire to the other pad and then spin it around. And unfortunately we've got to do a little jumper wire, but it's still going to have the same effect. Make sure that's fully stuck in, fully soldered. Whittle off the excess, and we're done with that bit. Just give it a little bit of a clean with isopropyl, and then flip over. There's 4 pads on the other side. We just apply a little bit of flux to all these and a little bit of solder. And then this is what we're going to be soldering to. So under the microscope, so this is the old port that we need to take off. So I apply a little bit of flux, and then I'll come in with some fresh solder on all the pins. This is going to make it a little bit easier to remove. So I started off trying to use solder wick to remove it, and it does remove a lot. It probably is a doable job, but I think it's going to take too long. So come in with a little bit more flux, and then come in with your hot air station set at 400 degrees C. Just keep moving it round, get your pair of tweezers, and then just keep wiggling it, and eventually it's going to drop out. Just get your tweezers underneath, keep gently moving it around. You don't want to rip any traces off, it will come out. Position on the back, they're the hardest ones to get out, and then finally it will drop out. And then we can move it out and then let it cool down. We'll give it a quick clean of isopropyl before we carry on. And now this is the wires that we need to solder to. So you can just pause on that bit of the screen if you have to. So we're going to attach 4 wires of about 1.5 inches, 2 inches in length to these pads that I'm doing. So just solder them on, make sure they're all nice and secure. We'll give it a quick clean again, always clean as you go along. And then make sure you line up the correct wires to the correct pads on the USB-C port. Refer back to the diagram that I drew before if you need to, and then that's pretty much it with the soldering there. So we just need to get some epoxy. So we'll just get this Gorilla epoxy. You just mix it all up and it'll go nice and solid. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to smother it on the board across these pins on the top. As long as you put enough on, you're not going to have any chance of shorts happening. So make sure you cover all of the pads that are on the top there. And then position the port into place. It needs to be hanging over a couple of mil. I've tried it more flush, but the connection won't make, so you have to have it hanging over like this and then clamp it into place. So I've got these clamps, which are very good for keeping it in place and leaving it to dry for a couple of hours. So I'll come back, just take the clamp off, and as you can see, it's in perfect position, hanging over the edge just as we want to. So we'll pop the board back into the place. Make sure it fits in as it does. We'll pop the first screw in. I'm going to solder on my wires straight away as well, whilst I've got my soldering iron out. So just make sure you put them in the right positions, otherwise the rumble feature won't work. And then we'll line up the back plate, and as you can see, it doesn't quite fit. It's just a little bit over the edge. So very carefully come in with a sharp knife and just slice off a couple of mil or two. You don't need to be taking excess off. You want to be taking a minimum amount. You can always take off more, but you can't put back more. And then we'll try it, and as you can see, it's an absolutely perfect fit. So before we put it all back together, we're going to plug it into our PlayStation 3. So I'll turn the PlayStation on. I've got my USB cable connected. I've got my board lined up. I pop it in. I've got my amp meter to show if there's any voltage and ampage going in. And now we've got lights flashing, which should show it's charging. And we've got a good voltage and a good ampage. So to me, that said it's working and it's fully charging. So now we just need to pop it back together. So the two shoulder buttons clip into place, just pop them in. Just make sure they're lined up with the springs facing down. Reconnect the battery. I love putting these controllers back together, so easy. Pop the rear casing back on, hook it over the top first, click it all into place. The USB-C looks absolutely perfect. Just double check that the connection fits in, which it does. Then we'll come in with our 5 screws on the back, and then we're done. Obviously I've done another one which I don't need to show again, but I've now got 2 PlayStation 3 controllers, both with USB-C connections, both working absolutely perfect and charging absolutely perfect. So no more trying to find the old cable that I was always struggling to find. I can now just plug it in with USB-C and I've got a nice modernised PlayStation 3 controller. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe.